Good morning. As we make our way through Iggeres Ramban, the Ramban's letter to his son, but really the Ramban's letter to each and every one of us how to live our best selves, become our best selves, live our best lives. I want to thank our series sponsor, Shmuel and Esther Shayowitz, in honor of their parents and children. Today's 10 minutes of meeting is sponsored by my dear friend and colleague, Meira and Jeffrey Goldberg, in memory of his grandmother, Dvorah Bas Efrem, and his great-grandmother, Batsheva Bas Yaakov. The Neshamas should have an aliyah. The Ramban is trying to help us become our best selves. We can't be our best selves when we indulge the worst character trait there is. And the Ramban has told us the worst character trait there is the character trait, the midah of ka'as. Indulging anger, giving into rage is madness. In fact, it's literally madness. The word rage comes from the Latin rabies. Rabies means madness. To indulge anger is to act like one is mad, one is mentally ill, one is sick, one is deranged. That's why it's self-destructive. People end up harming their own interests. They end up self-sabotaging. We spoke the inside of the stipler in Birchas Peretz, the makkah of Tzfardeya. Why did they keep hitting the frogs that they multiplied? It's illogical, it's irrational, it's self-destructive. Because when a person indulges anger, when they indulge the animal part of their brain rather than the human, rational, godlike part of their brain, then they indulge the worst, the lowest emotion, and they act in a self-destructive way. And the Ramban gave us the formula. The way to be spared anger is not to talk about anger, and is not to work on anger. If a person conditions and habituates themselves to always speak gently and kindly and softly to everyone, if that's simply how you condition yourself, if your pattern, your practice, you always speak calmly, gently, sweetly, no matter what happens, no matter how a person frustrates you or aggravates you or angers you, no matter the feeling of resentment or frustration, if you always speak gently and kindly, you can't be angry if you never scream. But you'll be able to regulate your own feeling, regulate your own behavior. Because a person, says the Ramban, who indulges the midah of kas, the midah of anger, don't focus on anger. The way to work on anger management, is not to manage anger. It's to manage calmness, to manage nachas, to everyone, always, everywhere, all times. We saw lahachti means it makes you miss opportunities. It makes you hurt and harm relationships with others, with Hashem and with yourself. And this is what our rabbi said. The Ramban quotes the Gemara in Nedarim that a person who indulges anger, kol mine Gehenim Sholtimbo, all parts of Gehenim, living a life of hell. What does that mean? Sholtin. What tense is Sholtin? We pointed out, Rav Dan Segel, the Mashkiach, in his commentary points out, Sholtinbo doesn't mean will yishlatu. It doesn't say if you indulge anger, then you will put yourself in a self-imposed state of Gehenim. Sholtin means Lashon Hova, in the present. A person who indulges rage or anger, a person who flies off the handle, a person who's yelling or screaming, is literally putting themselves in Gehenim. Everyone's looking at them. Everybody's watching them. Nobody wants to be near them or close to them or associated with them. No one wants to admit they're related to them. Nobody wants to spend time with them. A person who indulges anger puts themselves in Gehenim. They sabotage business opportunities. They sabotage relationships. They sabotage family. Everyone just wants to withdraw and go further away from them. So Sholtin Lashon Hova in the present tense. And then he quotes a pasuk from Kohelas that remove anger from your heart and eliminate ra'ah, evil, negativity from your flesh. Ra is Gehenim. And we don't want to put ourselves in a position of Gehenim. So how do you avoid anger? Writes the Ramban, by habituating, conditioning yourself, regulating yourself, no matter what, no matter where, no matter when, to always speak calmly. If you're always calm, and you're always happy, and you're always even-keeled, and you're always at peace, then you'll never get angry. Don't focus on anger, focus on self-regulation, and that way anger can never rise, and you'll never find yourself in a self-imposed present tense place of Gehenim. We just read in our parsha how Moshe Rabbeinu was attacked, but recently when Moshe Rabbeinu was spoken of negatively, Hashem himself endorses Moshe and tells us, the world, and through the Torah, that Moshe is the most humble of anyone. How does one achieve humility? Because that, after all, is the next step. The Ramban continues in the letter to his son and to us, Ka'asher tinatzel min hakas, if you condition and habituate yourself to always be calm, always be at peace, always be even-keeled, always speak softly and sweetly, everyone, always, then you'll be spared anger. And what will happen? What will replace the anger in your heart? If there's no room for anger in your heart, if anger never rises in your heart, what will be there? Instead, Ta'ala alibcha midas ha'anava. Then instead of anger, there will be humility. Who was the most humble of all men, of all time? Moshe. And what did it mean? Anava Rashi there writes, Anav shafel v'savlan. He was humble, modest, saw himself not high or superior or inflated. V'savlan. What does the word savlan mean? Tolerant, patience. In Israel, I just got back, savlanut. 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 It's spoken about a lot there. I'm not sure how much. We're all working on practicing it. We're all working on practicing it. Savlanut, patience. Patience. But the word savlanut, what does it mean, patient? Rav Goldberg has a brilliant insight. We ask Hashem, the Torah testifies when we were suffering in Egypt, Hashem came to rescue us, bitachas sivlos mitzrayim, from underneath the patience of Egypt. Now, what does sivlos mean in that context? Bitachas sivlos mitzrayim? The suffering, the burden. So what is patience? The capacity to suffer. The more appropriate translation of savlanut is sufferance. Sufferance means the capacity to endure suffering. When you're on hold, the operator, where are they? Why is this taking forever? They told me they'll be right back. When you're online at whatever checkout or the airport or the amusement park, the capacity to endure, to suffer, the resilience to absorb the sufferance of when things don't go your way. That's humility. Humility, Rashi says, shafel v'savlan. Moshe Rabbeinu was a savlan. Sufferance. That person's yelling at me. That person's reacting inappropriate to me. That person is falsely criticizing me. That this line, this condition, this environment, this treatment, it's all unfair. It's all causing suffering. It's all challenging and difficult. The anav, the humble person, is a savlan. They have the capacity to be sovel. Savlanut, patience, is the capacity to be sovel, to absorb and to endure the sufferance, the challenge, whatever there is. So one can react in one of two ways, right? The customer representative is taking wherever to get back to you, and they didn't give you the answer that you think you deserve. It's not righteous. It's not fair. Justice is not being served in the situation. My boss, my coworker, my spouse, my child, the world at large, nature, Hashem. It's all so unfair. You could react by flying off the handle, indulge anger, act with rage, rabies, madness, in which case you just harm yourself. Or you could practice midas ha'anava. You could be sovel. I could absorb it. I got it. I can absorb it. I can endure it. I can suffer through it. I could be sovel and practice savlanus and be therefore a anav. So when we eliminate anger, the heart can't have both anger and humility. You can't have both there. There's no space for anger and humility. The heart has either or. Person who's flying off the handle, who indulges anger and rage, it's all because of arrogance. Why is anger the result of arrogance? Anger is the result of arrogance because why does one get angry? Because their ego's been injured. What do you mean you didn't do what I told you to do? What do you mean you're not behaving the way that I want you to behave? What do you mean this isn't unfolding on my schedule, according to my anticipation and prediction, according to what I want? It's all me, I, ego. And when a person, ego, is injured, is bruised, then they get angry. But if a person lives with anavos, a person is humble and anav like Moshe, they're able to be sovel everything. So yeah, it's not about me. That wasn't the plan. That's not the way this was meant to go. That's not how this was supposed to go down. And who says I have a right? Who says I'm entitled? Who says it's magiali? Who says I'm in charge? Who says I'm in control? I'm an anav. I'm modest. I'm humble. I'm simple. I'm shafel. Now I can be sovel, whatever comes my way. So says the Ramban, the first thing you got to get rid of is anger. Anger is a pure emotion with no rationality. It is extreme in the negative. The Rambam, the Ramban, both right. Even though one should have the right measure of every quality and character trait, there should be no measure of anger and no measure of arrogance. And really, it's a zel bazach. Really, they're one and the same. The angry person is arrogant. And when one eliminates anger, how do you eliminate anger? Not by thinking about or focusing anger, but instead replacing it with nachas, to always speak calmly and peacefully and harmoniously and sweetly and gently. And then when you condition yourself, tinat sel, when you condition yourself to always speak gently, which means you never get angry, now the heart is soft and open, and there's space to be humble. There's space to be humble. Now, in contrast to anger, midas anava, shehi mida tova mikol midos tovos. If anger is the worst, the most negative, the most self-destructive character trait, then which is the greatest and the best? Anava. Humility is the best. I'll end by telling you, I just got back from Israel 2 days ago, went through customs as we always do, and every time I do, I think about this story. In 1882, 28-year-old Oscar Wilde at the time was on a year-long lecture tour of America. And during the trip, he traveled more than 70 cities. And in January, he arrived in New York Harbor at the port. And he was greeted by a U.S. customs official who asked him, as I was just asked the other day, and all of us are when we travel internationally, do you have anything to declare? And Oscar Wilde replied, I have nothing to declare but my genius. I haven't tried it. I don't think it would go over well. I have nothing to declare. You don't want to mess with those guys. It's always like 6 a.m. They're not happy to be there. You're not happy to be there. You just want to get out on the other side. I have nothing to declare. When a person has nothing to declare but their genius, then they are vulnerable to anger and to destroying their lives. When you follow the footsteps of Moshe Rabbeinu, Anav Mikol Adam, humility can enhance relationships, enrich relationships, and live our best selves. Have a good day. We hear Besoros Tovos Yeshuas V'Nechamos.